Alrighty. Hello, folks, and welcome again to our second show. We actually did a consecutive show. Oh my goodness.
We
We're
need to
on a
mark that in
roll.
history. Mark that in history.
We haven't done a consecutive show since what, '08?
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Alrighty. Well, actually, no, we did a consecutive show. It's just the reason we don't remember it is because it was like 30 minutes. Hi, hi, Blog Talk Radio. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, so I did a boo-boo. We're starting a little late because I just assumed that last week's time and place was totally great, and instead of going, "Hey Michael, would you like to do that again?" I just assumed, and here we are 15 minutes later.
In my defense, I left work a little later than I normally do, but you know that's going to happen when you work at a hospital. So
That about happened with me because right as I was cleaning up the front of house and everything, they were like, "So Sean, you want to run delivery?" I'm like, "Sure, I'd like to make an extra $4 in tips." Went did the delivery, and then I come back. It's like, "You want to do another delivery?" It's like, "No, I have obligations tonight. Thanks, but no thanks."
it's like I already went on my $4 extra tip run. I'm
Yeah,
done.
I'm done. I'm done. It's a Saturday night. The Fayetteville cops hate me anyway, so I'm done for the night. Um, But anyway, I threw together some topics. I don't know if you have anything you want to talk about. I know I put on there an interesting video that I saw on YouTube that I thought would make a good topic. And of course, there's the situation escalating in Syria. You
You know,
know,
the only thing that I really can think of, if we've got time to cover it, uh, would maybe be the. Have you heard that Georgia has passed a new immigration bill?
I don't think I have heard of that.
Yeah,
But that,
it actually passed, and the Democrats were thinking that it wouldn't pass, but they got proven wrong. It's basically the Arizona bill times 10.
ew,
Um,
ouch.
so yeah,
Oh
they
no.
basically said, Arizona set the foundation. Now we're going to build upon it. So, and they've began building the first floor. So,
So what?
uh,
Well,
but
since those topics, I think we can handle those each in time. Since we're already talking about it, why don't you go ahead and I don't know anything specifically about it, so if you want to just roll with that.
I don't know all the details because I really haven't pulled up the full document of it yet. But from what I was reading, basically Georgia has decided that of course, as we all know, Georgia has passed the same bill Arizona did, restricting illegal immigration. Um, I think, of course, you hear about Arizona being in the spotlight with the federal government and the Supreme Court basically taking shots at them over their immigration, but you don't really hear a whole lot about Georgia, which you don't hear a whole lot about Georgia
Yeah,
anyway.
you only
But
mainly hear about Alabama and Arizona.
right, you don't really hear about Georgia. Well, Georgia today is finally being placed on the map, so to speak, simply because they passed a bill basically stating that illegal immigrants can no longer get welfare, they can no longer obtain driver's license, they can no longer obtain any, basically without the driver's license, without a
Hmm.
social security card, they can't obtain any assistance whatsoever. And now and part of the bill is also that they're doing the e-check, uh,
Yeah.
the online checking for documentation. And basically, if a business hires, or they're basically forcing businesses to do the e-check, and if they hire someone who's illegal, they're fining them out the butt for it.
Hmm.
So, you know, the Democrats are like, "Oh, you can't do that," and Republicans says, we just did." So,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if you zero in on the whole driver's license issue and those things, I mean, it makes it completely impossible to get a job or anything like that. I mean, just because most of the things they ask you for is two forms of identification, and one of them is your driver's license, and the other one's some other piece of paper. Or so, I mean, if you narrow in that they can't get a driver's license, they can't get certain other documents, that basically makes them unemployable.
exactly, and I think they mainly did it primarily for the businesses, as far as forcing the mandatory e-check, basically just saying, if you're hiring somebody, we're going to make sure that you do what you're supposed to. So, I mean, and well, my feelings on illegal immigrations anyway. So,
I
you know, I,
yeah, I
I'm
personally,
all.
yeah, I know you're personally. As far as I'm concerned, I don't agree with the current immigration policy we have. But I mean, if this is the immigration policy we have, and the federal government isn't going to enforce it, then I mean, and the states are like, well, this is the law. You kind of get what you get stuff like this, and then the federal government's saying, well, you're encroaching on our stuff, and the states are like, well, if you just did your damn job.
Right, and that's one thing that I honestly think too is, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe Kentucky will go, hey, they did this, why can't we? But in the long run, basically this my theory on this whole ordeal is there are a set of rules put in the Constitution that governs what the federal government can and cannot do, and I mean it's pretty selective as far as what the federal government rights are. Over the past few years, decades, they've basically tried to branch out into what the states are actually supposed to be taking care of. So, like you said, if the federal government would just do the jobs that they were supposed to be doing in the first place,
Yeah.
then we really wouldn't be having this discussion because it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. And I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't agree with our current immigration policy. Pretty much, my personal opinion is so long as you're not, bringing some sort of disease across the borders, or you're not some criminal or anything like that, I don't understand why we have immigration quotas. And if you're from Mexico, well, we're only going to let in 5,000 Mexicans. We're only going to let in, certain amounts of people. I mean, if you want to come to America and, get a job here and live the American dream and everything, I think that should be totally open to you. But with the immigration policies it currently is, this is the law, and either you fix the stupid law or you're stuck with it.
Well, I have nothing against immigration. I think it's, anybody's right to live here, but we have a process put in place. And all we ask is that hey, you just follow these rules, and then you become an American citizen, and then you're no longer an immigrant. You're just an American citizen. The problem is you have so many people who just come over here illegally. That's the whole premise of illegal immigration. Instead of talking about legal immigration, you know, and one of the things that I've always said is, if I'm an immigrant and I come here and I had to do my time and had to do my, basically go through this long, drawn-out process to become a citizen, you should be highly mad that there are people who are just coming over here, getting whatever they want, but never having to do, what you had to do to become an American citizen. You should be upset and mad that here are these people just coming over here, and I'm not even talking about jobs, because there's two, and I mean there's good and bad on that topic back and forth. My big thing is one, as an illegal immigrant, at with current certain laws that aren't being followed, it's easy for an illegal immigrant to get on unemployment, welfare, medical assistance. It's easy for them programs to be enacted by an illegal immigrant, and I don't feel like they're entitled to it, not when they haven't put anything into it. I'm not saying that there aren't, immigrants that have come here that have put into Social Security or unemployment or retirement. And if you put into it, you deserve to get back from it. I mean, that's just logic. The problem is we're having more and more take out than who put in. So then, obviously, no wonder they're worried about, Social Security won't last much longer. Well, no. And it's not just immigrants' fault. That's everybody's fault as far as government's concerned. But, my big thing is, and maybe I'm a right-wing nut when it comes to this particular issue, because I've always been an advocate for the concrete barricades. I'm calling for a 10-foot by 10-foot by 10-foot concrete barricade that stretches across the borders, and and people are like, oh, so a giant Great Wall of USA. Okay, yeah, sure, if you want to call it that, if that makes you feel better, sure, But I'm not talking just a wall, because they can already climb a chain link fence or go underneath it. So a wall's not going to deter them a whole lot. So here's where my extremist comes out, and I say, okay, now we need guard dogs, pillboxes, and landmines. If you get across all of that, I will personally hand you a green card. and there's going to be people out there that are going to hear that and they're going, oh my God, this guy's a sick whack job. Well, on certain issues, sure, I will accept the title sick whack job and go on. But
yeah. Personally, on the whole immigration issue, as far as as the way I see it is like, I'm not so extreme on the whole build a wall thing, but I think that you should definitely earn the legal rights to be here, and I think we'd have less of a problem with illegal immigration if it wasn't so hard to get across in the first place. I mean, I think it's kind of ridiculous what we ask of people who want to just immigrate here and be Americans. I understand that there needs to be some things in place to, keep terrorists from getting visas and coming across and, violating that. But as far as the process of how long it takes to become an actual immigrant, the quotas that we impose on foreign nationals to come over here to become a legitimate citizen, I think we would have a lot less problem if we were a lot freer country and allowed opportunities for those who want them.
Yeah, I'll agree with that to an extent. My biggest thing, and I know that it's been a debate that's started from day one and has carried on into this conversation, but it's an issue. There's only one requirement that I really have personally, and that's learn English. And I know that sounds horrible, but at the same time, I don't care that you know Spanish, and I don't. In fact, I would love to personally learn Spanish. I think it's it's good to have multiple languages that you can talk. And I encourage people to learn multiple languages. But at the same time, my theory on this may seem a little awkward, but and yet there are a lot of people that actually do think the same way. If I moved to Germany to live there, work there, and to basically become a German,
you're right.
I should learn German. Period. I'm going to live there. Why should I expect them to talk my language? I mean, I know they know English because that's
right.
They learn multiple languages. They learn English as well as German. But German's their language, and if I'm going to live in Germany, I should learn German. If I'm going to live in Spain, obviously I'm going to learn Spanish. So, France, French. That's my only thing is if you're going to come to America, the greater majority speak English.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why that there's a lot of people that debate that is because Congress had never done its job of basically saying this is the official language.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe at one point in time they did bring it up. I don't remember if it passed or not, but I want to say it. I don't remember if it did or not, but at one time they did bring up the making English the official language of the United States, and there's debate as to the more languages that we speak here, the more languages we have to print on paper. I don't know about you, but I bought a Samsung printer one time. It had every language known to man on the manual, except for English. So apparently they did not feel that an Englishman's buying a Samsung printer. I don't understand why, but I kid you not, I had 15 languages and not a single one was in English.
And see, I think that's the thing is I understand that concept for government purposes. I can totally understand that as our nation we're majority English speakers and that for government things. But when you have corporations, they'll put the language down that best helps their customers. And I mean, if the majority of their customers speak Spanish, then they'll include Spanish. So I don't think there's really any need for that kind of thing for the private sector. But as far as the public sector, as far as dealing with government, I can understand where people would argue for a national language, and I don't really have any counter to that. I'm sure there'll be some people who hopefully will go see our video, will comment on that or their thoughts. But I mean, as far as that topic's concerned, I mean, I see where you're coming from on that one.
Right, and you know that's the whole thing was about the Georgia, you know, passing the laws and everything, and I do think that Georgia's on the right track. You know, and there are people who are going, of course, kind of go, I don't know. It kind of seems kind of extreme. You know, I don't think any state wants to create a situation to where people feel like they are being discriminated against.
Mm-hmm.
But I also understand that as we continue to develop as a country, or as we continue to develop, you know, this whole immigration debate and this immigration system, you know, we have to prioritize. We basically just have to say, look, you know, I don't want to make you all out to be the bad guy, but we have rules in place for a reason. All we ask is that you follow the rules. You all didn't follow the rules, so, you know, now you got to pay for it.
Yep. Definitely. I mean, like I said, I don't on that issue. I don't disagree on in the slightest. But I think we've ground this topic.
I do. Yep.
Yeah. So we thoroughly gone over this. So we'll move on to our next topic. I kind of want to save the YouTube video for the last, so we'll move on to Syria. I noticed on my news feed because I usually keep up with CNN and some of the other media outlets, that the United States government has confirmed the use of biological weapons on the Syrian rebels by the current Syrian government. It was kind of already suspected at this point. Israel had made a point of saying, yeah, we've confirmed this too, but now our government's saying, yeah, they're using chemical weapons against their own people. I've been trying to kind of follow that situation. I know it's been going on for, what, over a year now, almost coming up on 2, I think it is.
It's coming up on 2 years, yeah. Yep, it's coming up on 2 years now. So.
And, I mean, I try and as far as war is concerned, I don't like involvement and getting, you know, militarily involved, but at the same time, I don't see why we shouldn't be doing more to help at this point, because we're talking about a government that is so villainous and so vile that it would use chemical weapons on its own people. And I don't believe in getting too involved. I mean, I think we should send monetary aid, you know, medical aid, weapons and everything. I don't feel like we need to put boots on the ground, but I think we should be more active in supporting the Syrian rebels. I know there's some issues with some of the terrorist groups trying to prop up the rebels, but it's just one of those things that I think that we should be more involved in, not necessarily our military actually showing presence there, because, you know, Iraq worked out totally well for us. But, I mean, I think that if there is a popular uprising and that there is people who are suffering because of an oppressive government, that there should be some responsibility that should be taken for supporting those who are fighting for freedom.
I agree, and I think Israel posted a comment. I think was on Google News, so I'm not for sure where Google News had actually posted it from. You know, I don't remember exactly if it came from like the AP or Huffington Post or anything like that. But I do remember a story that Israel posted not too long ago. In fact, I was reading it while I was at work, you know, on my break, that I managed to get. Anyway,
you managed to break.
I managed to break here, you know. But I believe it was Israel released a statement stating that the reason why they felt that the United States was not committing to a role at this point was because of what happened in Iraq, and they were basically stating that the United States was afraid that Syria would actually become another Iraq, and that was the reason why that the United States at that point in time that the article was made wasn't really taking a big stand on it.
Right.
Now whether that's true or not, I don't know. Um, I would like to think that it's not, but at the same time, I kind of understand where it comes from. I mean, we're still feeling the burn from the whole Iraq War thing. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I mean, we like I said, we don't need to like put boots on the ground, but like the situation like where we had with Libya, where we were only doing aerial flyovers, creating a no-fly zone, supporting them by giving them guns, supplies, weapons. Like I said, it's not something that requires necessarily boots on the ground, our military going in there with our tanks and our own men, but I still think that there is more that could be done as far as this situation is concerned.
the only problem I see, and I mean, Obama pretty much made this statement. Of course, at the time, I honestly do believe that he thought that they wouldn't have actually used weapons on their own people. Unfortunately, they kind of proved us wrong on that, apparently. Um, so what I've gotten out of it is Obama basically said that would be the line. That would be the moment that America decided, hey, you know what? If you're willing to use chemical weapons on your own people,
Hmm.
we're going to have to do something about it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think honestly, it may. I don't. He can do one of two things here. He can do the Bush style shock and awe campaign like we did in Iraq, or he can turn around and say, okay, we're just going to do like we did in Libya. We're going to use cruise missiles. We're going to move a fleet in, use cruise missiles. We're going to use aircraft. We're going to, uh, you know, send money, which honestly, we can't really send any money. I don't care what anybody says, simply because we're broke. I mean, $16 trillion in debt, we're broke. We keep sending more and more money overseas, and we're broke. So it doesn't quite make any sense to me. But but now we can send the rebels M16s. We can send them ammunition. We can send them medicine, medical supplies. We can send them, if we wanted to give them some tanks, we got tanks in the armory we can send. If we wanted to give them military options, if we wanted to say, hey, we're willing to drop a few hundred bombs on them to help you progress a little further, then I think that would be okay. But honestly, I really do not know what Obama has planned as far as what he plans on doing
Right.
with regards to, is he going to do the whole shock and awe, put boots on the ground campaign, or is he actually, going to just do the Libby part of it? So, that's one of them we'll have to wait and see.
Hmm.
You know, um, I'm kind of mixed. I want to see the Libby action because I know it's going to cost less, but at the same time, we've kind of put our foot in our mouth, basically saying that, hey, if you do a revolution and you ask our help, we might put troops in. I mean, look what we did in Iraq. Look what we
Yeah.
did in Afghanistan. So now here's another country that's basically saying, we need help now. So now the question comes down to, well, do we pull our foot out of our mouth and help them, or do we just leave it in there and kind of mumble our way through it?
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I have a feeling, this is just my personal feeling, that we'll end up putting boots on the ground. I really do see it happening.
Yeah.
Whether we want to or not, that's just what I think is going to happen.
I don't know. I mean, Barack Obama's policy has been trying to avoid situations like that. I think that it's a possibility that we will, considering that actual chemical weapons are being used. But I mean, then again, back when Saddam Hussein was in power in Iraq, we didn't seem to care too much about that. Um, I personally would hope that we don't end up with boots on the ground. I hope we would stick to try and do some sort of Libyan thing, which has been, basically Barack's policy of, well, we're going to go after military targets, military interests, but we're going to try and minimize the chance of being of harm being done to our servicemen and women in the process of fighting for our own interests. And I think it's been a pretty balanced policy. I mean, I still war is one of those things that's very tricky. There's no real good way to say it, but I mean, it's definitely a policy that's a step up considering the last administration.
Oh shoot, yeah, that is true. Um, well, at the same time, you know, you also got to think about why we went in to why we went into Iraq in the first place, and that's another one of them debatable issues that we could talk about forever in a time. But
Yeah.
regardless if you think we went in there for one thing or the other, what we do now have the option of though is Israel taking more of a lead role, and I say that simply because Israel's right on the border with them.
Hmm.
So now they're thinking, well, now if Assad is willing to use chemical weapons on his own people, what else is he willing to do now? He's reached a point where obviously he does not care to kill his own people with chemical weapons. So I honestly see Israel stepping up and being more of the providing air support, artillery. Um,
Hmm.
they may be the ones who put boots on the ground in the end, sending troops in to basically, ensure that no more chemical weapons are being used. I just another thing that I kind
Or
of
that it
find
even spills
ironic in
over into Israel.
right, and Israel right now has already kind of gotten into a situation to where they're having issues with Hezbollah again, which is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
But
It seems to be a back and forth every other week.
yeah, one day they're mad, and the next day, they do this and they do that. But
Hmm.
you know, regardless, I do think that Israel will take a more dominant role this time around. The funny thing that I like to think about though is the fact that we always claimed that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. Um, we never found them, but we
I,
assumed that
I,
he
I
had them.
remember I remember the joke being, yes, we knew he had weapons of mass destruction. We still had the receipts.
Yep, yep. There was that joke, but my favorite is we claimed that they had it. Now now here's a country we actually know does have it.
Yeah.
How do we know? Because they've actually used them. Yeah. So now I don't. It's like, well, we can go in and we can basically go in and take care of these people uh, that we know has weapons of mass destruction. Because unlike Iraq, where we just assumed that
Yeah.
they had it.
Yeah, on another topic that I know, this is kind of old news, old bone, but I know that this was also coming up. But what about your thoughts on the fact that there's been back and forth that supposedly Iran has been propping up the Syrian regime?
One thing that you have to understand about them countries over there, a lot of them leaders are in it together. Um,
Yep.
so even the leaders that we don't want to think are in it, that they really are into it. These are countries that are dedicated, to a Muslim belief, and I'm not saying that in a religious reference. I'm saying it into a political reference because their political thoughts are based on the religious. So you can't, and they don't separate the two. Um, so they basically have a Muslim-based government, and
Right.
sometimes that doesn't exactly work well with others. So, I think Iran's propping up the Syrian government? I do, and I don't think they're doing it to spit in the face of America, though I do think that might be some of it. I think that they're doing it because that's just how they are. You have these governments who are relying on each other. It kind of goes back to the same idea of like, Israel. They're basically by themselves. They're completely surrounded by Muslim countries, and they're Jewish.
Yeah, and they've already had 2 wars over that issue. The
Right,
Six-Day War and then
and
Yom Kippur.
right. So, they've basically accepted the fact that, hey, yeah, these, we're surrounded by people who are wanting to kill us. So,
Yeah.
but Israel's done really good at holding their own. So, that's
Definitely.
that's a good thing. And we have sent no telling how much weapons, munitions, and things to
Yeah.
Israel to ensure that they have, their security. So, but do I think that Iran supports Assad? I do. Do I think that could lead to something bigger? At this point in time, no. The only way I could see Iran getting drawn, and I can see them getting drawn into it, but it would take some really condemning evidence like, oh, Iran supplied them with the chemicals? Well, they have their own chemicals, so that wouldn't work. Did you know they supplied them with the giant scuds that they're getting ready to launch? Oh,
Yeah.
well, now that's different. They didn't have giant scuds. They had, regular scuds. Okay, so yeah, this is condemning evidence. Or if they go in and say,
Yeah, like I said, with yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, like I said, I don't think that. I think more of that support comes from the fact that you're a totalitarian regime. We're a totalitarian regime. If you guys lose control, it gives our people the idea that they can take over. We would rather much not like that.
Yeah, and another thing too, if say the U.S. or Israel even goes over there, and then they find out, hey, these aren't just Syrian troops. What do you mean they're not just Syrian troops? Oh, they have Iranian irregulars in here as well, or they have the honor guard or whatever they call them, the Republican Guard, the Iranian military is there too. Oh, well, now that changes the whole thought process behind what we were originally going to do. Now that we can prove that there's actually enemies here and that they are, doing, hindering our progress, then yeah, I think it's time that we do something about it. And then I do believe that Iran would be drawn into a conflict with the United States and Israel. So.
Yeah, at this time though, I mean the situation is pretty. I don't think it needs a whole lot of involvement. I mean, the Iranian involvement, I don't think is great enough to justify us sending troops. And like I said, when we first started this discussion, I think, just support the rebels and work from there, because I don't see any reason why we need to put boots on the ground. There's, like you said, no overwhelming evidence that, some third party is trying to intervene any more than, what's already going on. And that's basically where it stands right now. I mean, they used chemical weapons. I think that's justification enough that we should, do more to support them, and hope and pray that the situation in the Middle East finally mellows off. I mean, I know we've seen sparks pick back up in Egypt. I mean, it's a very unstable region.
Yes, and I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon, but we can still kind of hope though. So
Yep. Alrighty. Well, we are an hour in almost, give or take about 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and let me see here. I'm going here. Bear with me. I'm going to fangle around with Fangle around with our wonderful uh, wonderful settings and stuff we have here, and I'm going to
You're going to
try and
attempt
find.
to do YouTube?
I'm going to attempt to use some of our funky gadgets that we've got here. Um, I'm not wanting to run stuff from a playlist. I just want to put a video in. Is this a problem, YouTube? Add video to playlist. Here we go. There we go. No, that's not what I wanted to add to the playlist. Back. Anyway, while I figure out how to use something that I've spent absolutely no time doing before and probably should have prepped practicing with this thing, copy address. Here, let's see if this works. This is going to be our next topic. It's an interesting video that I saw. Yet I'm still trying to preface you. No, don't get rid of it. Anyway, add it back in. Stop. Okay. I know we've talked about, in the past about school, school choice and some of the other things, but I thought this would be an interesting topic to bring up. So I'm going to play this video. Hopefully we won't have any problems, and we can move on with things, and then we'll have some discussion on it.
How's that YouTube going there? Because I am not.
I hope you really enjoyed this. Click on one of the. All right. Did that work out for you? Because I noticed as the video was going, you were. Did you ever figure out when the call was? Anyway, so did that work out for you, or was it a?
I didn't hear any of the videos, so yeah. So if it played, yeah, I didn't hear or see anything. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I can work this so it lets you hear. We'll we'll do this the backwards way. instead of doing this via the actual YouTube thing on here, let's go ahead and set my mic to stereo.
That might work, yeah.
Think back to your time in high school. Did you ever feel that you were in a prison? Did you ever feel that you were in a machine that had its own purposes and goals, and had no relation to what you actually wanted to do or achieve? If you did, then you shouldn't be surprised, because this reflects the nature of what the modern school is. The modern school was invented by the Prussians after 1806. Before then, education was delivered in many different ways. What we think of as a school was invented in that particular time and place. And it was invented for a very particular purpose, which was to produce loyal, obedient subjects and soldiers, and people who would also be productive and obedient workers. It's this that explains why school is the way it is and has the features it has. It explains why it is that the school day is divided up into rigid, time-structured blocks. It explains why it is that the organisation of the school is hierarchical and highly structured. It explains why it is that people are taught with people of their own
So there's no mic going.
people in the same stage of interest or ability as themselves. It explains why in many school systems, one of the functions of the system is to direct people into particular life paths, to sort out young people into different kind of career groups. To the extent that education actually does take place in schools, it's a happy accident or a byproduct. Now, there are many people who work in schools who believe that education, in fact, is the main point of what they're doing, and who are trying very hard to educate the people in their charge. However, the problem is that the whole system they're working in, the way it's set up, the way it is organised, is hostile to that goal endeavour, so that they're in the unfortunate position of constantly trying to push water uphill, and any success they have is gained against dollars. What we need to realise is that education and schooling are not the same thing. In fact, because we think that schooling is the same thing as education, we have a radically impoverished idea of what education is and could be. Why, for example, do we assume that education should only take place at one stage of a person's life? Education is something that can take place at any stages of life, including children. Why assume that we have to educate people at the same age altogether? Surely this is a crazy way of doing it. Why do we have to deliver education in the highly structured and formalised way that schools require us to do so? Education is something which is central to most people's lives. What we need to do is to get away from the idea that schools are the only way in which we can deliver education. I hope you really enjoyed this. Click on.
Oh, Mix did it. Did you hear any of that video?
Yeah, I actually heard that one. I mean, it kept like lagging out.
Did you get any of that video?
Yeah, I got some of it.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure. I went back in there. It said internal mic, and I'm like, wait a minute. I put that on stereo mix. I could have sworn. So, all right. Did you get the gist of the video then? Let me kill screen share here and.
What I got, so what I'm getting out of it is it's basically stating that you know, it's comparing schools to prisons.
Well,
a
roughly.
bit of a way, but yeah, in a rough manner, yes.
Yeah. It's just basically calling into question how we run the school system. If we should one sec here, if I can. It doesn't want to let me. Okay. If we should, you know, instead look at doing schooling as, you know, a more organic instead of a structure in a structured capacity the way we do it, making learning more organic, or if the schooling system and the manner in which we school students is actually helpful to education or actually hinders actual education.
Right. Education reform is actually one of the things that I focus a lot on in my election process. And the reason being is that I do feel like I think we're major education reform is definitely needed. There's just no way around it. And it's not so much just in the education part of it; it's also in the financials.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear more and more people actually talking about, homeschooling,
Yeah.
things of that nature. And I think for me, I'm not one to subscribe to the whole private school thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could tolerate more of the homeschooling part of it, but I'm definitely not one to advocate private schools. I feel like private schools are based more on profit than they are on you know the feelings of a child. I could be wrong on that, but that's just my personal thought on that. So one of the things that I advocate a lot for, more so than others, is increased spending in education. Not so much just to increase the money that's gotten by teachers, but more so we need to have an active program that seeks to advance education through modern means, better internet connections, more computers, smaller classroom sizes, better textbooks, things of that nature. And unfortunately, all that costs money, so that goes more to an economic, part of it. But it's a hard issue either way. As far as the organic or structured, I see where both sides have positive, but I also see where both sides have negatives.
Right.
But I also think the organic form that they were talking about on the video, I think it offers a lot more advantages compared to this current system. So I can understand where they're coming from.
Now, I know we have a different feeling as far as public and private schools. I personally don't have a problem with private schools. I mean, yes, there is a profit motivation involved with that, but I also believe that they allow for more diversity as far as the schooling education goes. You can go to a private school where instead of it being geared to just, as the video explained, dump you into something, you can go into fields and get, the kind of education that you want back from it. And I don't think we'll be bringing that video in, but as far as it goes, bringing money to, not necessarily even private schools. You could still be in favor of public schools and be in favor of like charter schools and magnet schools, which specify in the different things that you were talking about, where it's more of a education based around, some of the new learning methods we're able to do with, technology and things like that. And like I said, there needs to be some definite school reform. The system that we currently have is not producing results. I mean, we see videos and ads all the time about how students in America underperform, and despite how much money we spend on the issue, we spend more than most industrialized countries for less results at the end when people graduate, or if they even graduate at all. I mean, the dropout rates in the United States as a whole and in some major cities is just horrendous. So, I mean, there's some definite change that needs to be happening. It's just a matter of what change is it that needs to be happening.
And I agree, and that's one thing that I've always found funny was, we as a nation, we kind of pride ourselves on, our economics and our education. And at one time, I would like to say that, it was proven that we had some of the best, education systems of the time. The unfortunate thing, however, is that has kind of fell to the wayside. Now you hear about schools in England and France and Germany who are actually better than us.
Right.
And it's simply because they are priding themselves more. There is one country that has always, in my personal opinion, gave us a run for our money, and it's actually a country that we don't give a lot of credit to. And that's, the Asian countries like Japan and China. Japan has some of the most, brightest children, in the world, and that's because they pride themselves on it. I mean, they have pretty much, their entire society is based that if you want to become something in life, you have to have a good education. And I just feel like maybe we should look at their teaching methods and maybe look at bringing some of that over here, and seeing what we can do with it, because otherwise we're going to keep falling behind. So.
I don't know if the Japanese model or some of those Asian countries that would be something that we could follow, because part of it also there has to do with their not just the fact that they have a good educational system, but it has to do with their what's the word I'm looking for? It has to do more. Yeah, I know. I'll go on with this, and then I'll be like, that's what I meant. No, it has to also do with their culture. There we go. Their culture is structured differently. There's a different amount of things that also factor in there, but also like some of the European countries with Finland and the Netherlands is another one that I've heard about. It's like you have these choices of where you can go to school, not just public schools, but as far as private schools. We have this horrible system of districting and saying that if you live on this block, you get to go to this school, and there's nothing you can do about that unless you get a special permission to go to a different school. I mean, like I said, charter schools and magnet schools are a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, I mean, there's no widespread step to move towards vouchers or charter systems or these other systems that other European countries have taken up because they work. I mean, it drives down the cost of education itself on the taxpayer, and it yields better results. The only problem is that we haven't there's no move to that, and maybe it's the libertarian in me that says that this has a lot to do with the teachers unions and stuff like that, who like the way the system is because it benefits their members, and there's nothing wrong with that. The union is looking out for its members, it's looking out for its best interest, but at the end of the day it harms the actual goal of an education. That's to help the students prepare themselves for life, get them into a situation where they can pursue what they enjoy, pursue what they are good at, and better themselves as human beings.
I agree and I disagree. Primarily on the teacher union part, simply because now I understand that there are certain educators that make a whole lot more money, and a lot of times it's not so much that the teachers themselves are making a lot of money. A lot of times it comes down to the administrators, the people who are above the teachers, are actually the ones making, the majority of the money. And then you have the teachers who are, underneath that. And there are some, like university teachers, do make quite a bit of money compared to, say, the high school. High school teachers, I don't know about there, but I know where I'm from, they don't make a lot of money. It pretty much takes two of them working in a family unit to pretty much survive. And, in a way, I feel like that's kind of undermining a teacher. I mean, you're sending your child to these people to, get them prepared for a future, and yet, we're not willing to pay them, their just dues, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I understand too that you can't just always keep giving teachers more and more and more and more. There has to be a limit. But of course, I don't. I personally just don't agree with private schools because of the motive of money. I don't feel like that really puts the child's best interest. And I could be wrong. And there's plenty of things out there that say I am. There's plenty of things out there that say I'm also right. So it just depends on who you prescribe to. Who you want to listen to is depending on who's on your side and who's not. So, but the teacher unions, like you said, they're doing what they're supposed to, which is protecting the teachers. I kind of feel like they're more geared towards protecting the administrators, however, because you look at some of these well, I'll just go ahead and say it. The basketball coach for Kentucky makes the most out of any coach in the United States that I know of. He makes $1 million a season just to be an athletics coach. I don't know any coach in the world that's worth $8 million. And I know people are like, oh, but he's the UK head coach. He's, Cal Perry. I don't care who you are. You're not worth $8 million for coaching. No coach is worth $8 million. So right there is just one thing that I'm sitting there going, here, this is a university. They get state money, and we are blowing it on a coach. Why not knock him down to, say, $500,000 a year and say, hey, look, if you think you can do better, go ahead. But we're thinking about our students. We're not thinking about your checkbook. That's $7.5 million that we're going to reinvest into our schools and upgrade our textbooks, upgrade our facilities, upgrade this, that, and the other. We're going to start cutting down class sizes. We're going to actually bring teacher wages up and lower administrator wages. We're going to, why not do that? That sounds better and more reasonable than saying, yeah, I'm going to pay this coach $8 million a year. And I'm going to pay my admins $1 million a year. But my teachers are only going to make $60,000 a year. They do the most work, but they're also getting paid less. So, I don't think that's right.
I don't know what to say about the administrators thing because I can't speak from experience on that or knowledge, but I know for instance the reason why the coaches get such salaries is mainly because that aside from the money that they get from the state, a lot of the money that schools make is off selling tickets to sporting events. And if you aren't doing well enough to draw in the crowds, to draw in people to purchase tickets, purchase your paraphernalia, all that different things, then you're losing out on a lot of profit. And here we are, back to square one on this. Is at the end of the day, some of these schools, even if they are getting state money or a state-run college, they've got a budget to take care of. They're definitely as much in it for the money as anyone, as anyone else. So the reason that if you went to most colleges, that they would justify the profits that they give their coaches is because that's their big revenue pool. That's how they make money.
Yeah, but it's kind of sad to think that here are these schools that are relying on that, basically just to survive. Yet I think an education system should be well funded regardless of how it's funded. Simply because that is our future. Our children are our future, and if we're not willing to shell out a little extra money here and there to make sure that they actually have a future, then shame on us.
Yeah, and like I said, I tend to agree with you. I think schooling should be about the schooling, not how many wins your basketball team has. But this is the kind of the world that we live in right now, and I'd like to say that I'd have an answer for it, but right now I don't. I can only attest to this is the reason this works this way, unfortunately.
That's true.
That's true. Well, see, this is we have 45 minutes and out of topics.
May
So
just have to make a short show tonight. I don't know.
oh, well, we can do that. I mean, we always, I mean, we usually slot a 2 hour show because usually we like I mentioned in our last episode, we like to, verbal masturbation. But I mean, when you run out of things to say, you run out of things to say sometimes. I mean, unless there's anything new about your campaign that you'd like to update us on or something, or.
Not at the moment. It's still touch and go.
Mhm.
Actually, I've been so busy this week between work and other things, I haven't really done a whole lot with the campaign. I'm hoping next week. Of course, it's also been raining a lot this week, and one of my goals, before I remembered I actually had to work the weekend shift, was to actually go on the weekend to a couple of different places and get signatures and that
Mhm.
kind of thing and do a little campaigning. But one, due to the rain and cold weather,
Yeah.
kind of got axed on that part of it, and then realizing, oh, you actually have to work the weekend. So I kind of got axed on that point too. So I was like, you know what? There's always next weekend. I'm gonna take the week off, I think, and just, and just kind of relax a little bit. You know, I've
Yeah.
been running on, of course, working, running on the campaign, and then other things that I try to do throughout the week, housework and whatnot. So you just need a couple of days sometime to sit back, relax, and say, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do nothing today,
Yeah.
just because I'm tired. So
Mhm. Well,
that's
here,
basically been
I think I found maybe one thing that we could talk briefly on, fill up maybe a little more time at least here. Let me see if I can work this again with the screen share and the. No, I don't want that. I want this one. I want that one. Give me one sec.
We got a good one for you tonight. And I've said that before, but I'll say it tonight and mean it. Our guest tonight, the great Bassem Youssef, fresh off his command performance at both the Time 100 dinner and jail. So it's gonna be good. But we begin tonight with a celebration of what makes America great and a land of the awesome and why our enemies don't get it. Hey, the Constitution founded our great country. The American Constitution, the blueprints for our way of life. I really worry if we've lost an understanding of our Constitution, our founding principles, an understanding of what makes us strong.
They hate our freedom. They hate our way of life. They hate who we are. They hate our liberty.
It is like we are the Anne Hathaway of countries. You hate us, but only because you can't get with this. Why do you hate America? Is it that we're too nice, that we sing too well? And that's why how we handle Boston Marathon bombing suspect Zopar Tyanyev is so important. For the strength of our system lies in how durable it is, even for our most heinous citizens. I'm a little bit concerned because now he's got his Miranda rights, the right to remain silent. Miranda is the guy or not? I don't understand the point. First, you're going to tell him is you have the right to remain silent. Fantastic. So the bombs that could be exploding and the plots that could be unfolding, we can't ask him. Okay, first of all, not reading someone their Miranda rights doesn't mean they don't have their Miranda rights. You have Miranda rights under the Constitution. You don't have to say them out loud for them to become real. You're thinking Beetlejuice. Now, the only reason you have to read them is so that whatever the suspect has done or did, whatever they do say is admissible at their trial. It's another hallmark of our constitutionally guaranteed right to trial. I think it's a mistake not to treat him as an enemy combatant.
We ought to look at him as an enemy combatant and moving him toward a military tribunal.
Yes, the civilian trial for terror is not going to work. So like Tim McVeigh, Ted Kaczynski, Ramsey Youssef, and the Blind Sheep roam our fair country in a bus, going city to city, singing medleys of original hits. And what's that? Really? They're dead or in prison, huh? Well, who am I thinking of? Is it? Oh, the Muppets. Oh, all right. I get it. be fair, they both tried to take men. So in the wake of an assault on our freedom and way of life, we have quickly jettisoned the Sixth Amendment, right to a fair trial and speedy trial, and the Fifth Amendment's right against self-incrimination. What's next?
This guy ought to be, right now, being interrogated in a very intense... I don't believe enhanced interrogation is torture. I don't.
You don't believe enhanced interrogation is torture? Because torture, like Tinkerbell, depends on... So there goes the Eighth Amendment's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. Any freedom lovers want to take a crack at some of the lower ones, your thirds, your fourths?
Should the FBI be allowed to now go into mosques and wiretap and surveil? I think this is a great case for opening up that line of
I think that we should be able to put in listening devices in there.
Sure, illegal search and seizure? None! Freedom lovers are jettisoning amendments like Han Solo dumping cargo to make the jump to light speed at the first sign of Imperial cruisers, right, Chewie? But you know what? Anybody can toss away the lesser-known amendments. Only a true patriot can set a course straight for the first.
We really have to consider that given the fact so many people hate us, that we're going to have to cut off Muslim students from coming to this country for some period of time.
Yes, a religious litmus test for school enrollment, says Fox's most prominent liberal voice. Holy, what's left? A prohibition on the unmentioned personal rights in the Constitution that are designated to the people?
Do I know about this wife as well? I don't care if she knew about this. She ought to be in prison for wearing a hijab.
And down goes the Ninth Amendment! Down goes the Ninth Amendment! And Coulter doesn't just want a police state, she wants a fashion police state. Now, of course, to their credit, any of the Fox contributors or anchors who have studied law have a somewhat different take on this subject.
To try him as an enemy combatant, the government can't just willy-nilly do that.
I mean, now you're getting into a dangerous place.
Is that possible? No.
But of course, these types of legal arguments are no match for freedom path.
How many Muslims in the world? Anybody?
1.57 billion.
Let's just say 10% dislike us or hate us. That means 157 million Muslims hate us. If 10%, 5%, 1% are radicalized and would kill us, that's 1.5 million people who are radicalized to a point where they want to kill us Americans.
Wow, that's... I wasn't sure. Well, hey, I've got an idea. Since we're just throwing amendments where willy-nilly, what if we wanted to, I don't know, track the weapons that any of these American haters bought, and maybe do a background check if any of them try to purchase weapons here in America?
Our right to bear arms is protected in the Constitution. There's no ambiguity here. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Oh, no ambiguity there. You know, since in the last few decades there's been 300-400 deaths from terrorism, Islamic and otherwise, and in that same period we've had nearly, I don't know, 1 million deaths from gun violence, 30 to 40,000 a year every year. Is there anything we can do about that?
What Constitution? Vice President Joe Biden says the president may crack down on guns by executive order, a.k.a. taking our right to bear arms away.
Yes, it turns out there's only one amendment in our Constitution's pantheon that is exempt from statistical analysis or emotional freak-outitude. And it is the second. God help us if the Muslims ever decide to form a well-regulated militia. We'll have no way to stop them. We'll be right back.
I all agree with John Stewart on the whole issue of guns and the Second Amendment, but I mean the rest of that, that's just... Does anyone really take Fox News seriously? I just want to throw that out there. Do you take Fox News seriously?
They're kind of in league with the corporate news. I mean, I'm sorry, CNN. You know,
Yeah.
so they're kind of in league with the corporate news network. So no, I don't really take anything Fox says seriously. It's kind of like asking me, do you take MSNBC seriously? Only on
No.
issues that I know that they actually know.
Mhm.
You know, and unfortunately, that list keeps getting smaller and smaller. So eventually, they're going to rank right on up there with Fox and CNN. Um, and you know, and I actually enjoyed that video simply
Yeah.
because I just love how he's like, you know, like I said, the ending part, the Second Amendment thing. Um, I'm not such a dick that you know I can't laugh about it because it was funny. You know, the Muslims
Mhm.
organized militia. I thought that was kind of funny. Um, I don't exactly agree with his point of view on the Second Amendment, but you know, I do agree how I did find it funny how all of these big name political analysts and thinkers, I think that's a title they've given themselves, honestly. But I love how they're all talking about, you know, yeah, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to. Um, I'm pretty sure that our forefathers are turning in their graves
As you speak.
as you speak, and they are probably you probably just condemned yourself to hell because they have literally walked to Jesus and went, can you send them down there? You know, because they are totally stupid.
Strike them down.
Yeah,
Strike
strike
them
them
down now.
down right now. Yes, you know, you need help throwing the lightning bolt. Abe's there. You know, but
Yeah.
you know, seriously though, these people, they're like, oh yeah, we should be able to do this. Well, like, you know, oh, that's against the Fifth Amendment. Well, we should be able to do this. That's against the Fourth Amendment. That one's against the Ninth. Oh, that one's against the First.
Hmm.
Um, you know, these constitutional amendments were made for a reason, and you're pretty much trying to use terrorism as a way to
Yeah.
say, oh, well, we don't have to obey the Constitution. No, I'm pretty sure that the Constitution was put there to be obeyed at all
All
times.
times.
You
Yes.
know, because because in their theory, okay, so you're telling me that that basically every law that revolves around the Constitution can be broken. Okay, well, there's a few laws I would like to personally break, like the eradication of stupid people. I would like to begin working on that immediately. Um, you
Hey,
know,
you know, we would have more room in our nation for immigrants if we got rid of the stupid people. There you go.
and the
Perfect.
best and the best part is stupid people draw welfare, Mexicans work. So
Yeah.
unemployment
Yeah.
just got lowered 30% overnight. You know, um,
Yes.
so, and I know I sound like a horrible jerk right now, but you know, I mean, seriously though, these people, it's so easy, and I hate debating against liberals anymore. To be honest with you,
Hmm.
um, like on the Huffington Post. I mean, seriously, I was sitting here debating with a guy, and he was actually in his, and truly, he was a liberal, but he actually debated, and that's what I enjoyed about debating with this particular one person, was instead of just being the dick that just shows up and slams down a statement and then tries to make you look like a dumbass. No, he
Hmm.
actually debated his point, gave reasons, gave evidence, and at the end, I felt like neither one of us really gave up any ground, but at the same time, it was like we'd reached the point where we agreed to disagree.
Hmm.
I didn't mind debating with him, but there were
Yeah.
so many others that posted back to me basically just saying, you're stupid. Okay, well,
Yeah. I
answer me
that's why I don't
how.
usually comment too much on media. I Yeah, I like Mediate because, you know, you get a good mix of both left and right, you know, as opposed to the Huffington Post. But I mean, I do enjoy some articles from the Huffington Post, usually when they deal with topics I agree with, but you get that all the time on the internet, though. I will be glad for Jon Stewart. He's usually known for slamming Fox. At least he realizes that, you know, there are some people that just need to leave that network, form their own, full of smart,
Yeah.
liberty-minded people who understand the Constitution. See, I mean, John Stossel and Napolitano, I don't know what the heck they're doing on Fox News. They need to just take their own network, get some supporters, get a network going, and just leave Fox, because they're good libertarian advocates, but the fact they're on Fox means that no one pays any attention to their ideas. They're really good because they're on Fox. They're on Fox, and I refuse to call it Fox News, because there's no news that goes on there. It's just spin.
My all-time favorite one that I've run into here lately is these advocates, or I won't call them advocates. I don't know what they are, but these people who are actually complaining and griping about the fact that, oh, you know, that one Boston bomber that got killed, yeah, he was on welfare. Okay, what does that have to do with anything? Well, his wife ought to be ashamed. Oh, okay, so we're going to attack the wife of the bomber just because she's married to him? Really, there's things I don't tell my wife. Not because I want to lie to her, but just simply because she really doesn't care and really don't want to know. So why would I waste her time?
Yeah.
So, you know, and maybe that's his thought on it too. You know, while he's making the pressure cooker bomb, hey, where's my pressure cooker? Oh, don't worry about it, honey. I'll buy you a new one. You know, you know, I mean, seriously, maybe she just did not care. And then they're like, oh, well, they were on welfare, so we funded terrorism. We've been funding terrorism since the 60s. Vietnam, Korea, operations in Afghanistan. I'm talking about before 9/11. I'm talking about the Soviet Union era. Let's clear that out real quick. You know, we've been supporting terrorism of our own. We just didn't call it that for obvious reasons. We called it covert operation.
Well, yes, because because when the government does it, it's a completely different thing. And I mean it's in the dictionary right there. When you use violence to create a political message, to get a political message across, that's what terrorism is called.
Exactly.
The fact that one person does it or a group of people does it doesn't change the fact that it's terrorism.
And that's a lot of people who don't know this, and the ones who do don't speak loudly enough, apparently. And I think it's become more predominant now because there's actually been enough smart people to say something about it that even the dumb people have learned. It's hard to believe. But, and that is that, you know, Al-Qaeda. We actually created Al-Qaeda during the Soviet Union, invasion of Afghanistan. We went to Osama bin Laden and all the warlords and said, hey, I'll give you money and guns, and all you got to do is kill some Soviets. They're like, oh, hey, free money, okay. You know, they went
and we get to kill Soviets, double win.
Yeah, you know, hey, we're being invaded by the Ruskies. Okay, well, let's go kill them. Oh, hey, they're going to give us guns to do it. Okay, so we train them. We send covert agents over there to train them how to use weapons, how to, formulate tactics and do this, that, and the other. Well, then, at the end of the war, they're going, okay, now we want our money to rebuild our country that you promised us. Oh, did we promise you money? I'm sorry, we lied. Now you want to know why they hate Americans. It's not because of our religion. It's because we screwed them over on the tab. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's the thing that I like about Charlie Wilson's wars. I mean, the reasons we went into Afghanistan, I mean, to help the Afghanis during that the war they had with the Soviets, it was a great legitimate reason. I mean, the Soviets went in there to repress an uprising to uphold communism in Afghanistan because, you know, it was one of the very few communist countries left at that point in time, and we went in there to help the people who said, no, we don't want this. And, you know, it goes into that after... Hi, Mr. Van. You're very loud. You know, we went in there and we wanted to help. And after the war was over and the Soviets left, you know, Charlie Wilson was trying to say, you know, let's help them rebuild their country. I mean, we spent this money to help them get their freedom. Why not we help them build, schools? All these children that are parentless and everything, that are now going to be uneducated, don't have parents to help them. Let's go in there and help these people. And Congress said, you know what, we've helped them enough. We're not going to help them be good adults, to be contributing citizens, to be able to help these people, and you get what you sow. I mean, it's an issue of you got to finish what you started at the end of the day.
And unfortunately, our government doesn't see it that way. You know, they kind of, you know, basically said, "Forget you." You know, we went into your country and we helped you remove the Ruskies, but that's about as far as we're going to go. We're just going to help you kill some Soviets, and then we're going to go home and not think about you anymore. And you know, I don't like to think that my country at one time helped terrorists, but you know, guess what? We did. You know, and the worst part about it is you know, we have so many people that are basically sitting there going, well, we need to torture that guy to get more information. We need to basically we need to torture his mother and torture his wife. You know, surely they knew something about this and they're just not saying anything and this, that, and the other. And it's like, and then they're complaining about the whole welfare thing. I'm like, do you know how many people are on welfare that don't deserve it? Millions. So what does one person have to? Well, he used the money to create a pressure cooker bomb.
You don't know that.
Okay. So there are people that use your welfare money to buy crack cocaine. I don't really see you complaining about that. You know, or there are people who use your welfare money to buy handguns and then go out and cause gang violence. I don't hear anybody complaining about that. There's this guy got welfare. Not only does he does crack and he's in a gang. Oh, wait, he bought a knife and raped a girl. Yeah. Where are the people that are griping about all of that? They're nowhere to be found. And, you know, so they expect people to feel sorry or to get upset about an incident where a guy, you know, committed an act of terrorism. He's going to get his in the end because terrorism is a capital offense. And I also found it funny they were complaining about reading him his Miranda rights, and it's kind of like, you know, Stewart said, you know, it's kind of illegal not to read him his. It's kind of actually.
It doesn't just magically not happen if you don't read them to him. It just means you can't use what he says in court.
Right. So if he come out and say, "Oh yeah, you know, this, you know, all these groups made me do this, and this made me do it, and blah blah blah." Oh, well, wait, we got that illegally because we never read him his Miranda rights. Oh, so we can't use that to actually get these guys.
Get the terrorists. Yeah,
get the terrorists. Oh, we screwed up, and then the people are going to be mad about that. So it's kind of like, you know, a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But you know, I think there's, whether you're liberal or conservative, I just think there's way too many people, you know, not understanding simple fact.
Yeah.
As bad as that is to say.
Yeah, even on the torture thing, I mean, even if you were tortured this person, there's no guarantee he would actually say anything. I mean, they've done studies on this about, you know, some of the people that they have down in Gitmo and everything about how, you know, these enhanced interrogation techniques, whatever you want to call them, you torture the person.
Waterboarding.
Don't necessarily bring results. I mean, especially when you're torturing an innocent person who possibly could have just acted on their own. Well, that doesn't necessarily make them an innocent person, but some of the people down in Gitmo, there are people who don't belong there. But I mean, when you torture someone, I mean, they can only go on the information you know they're based on. So if you tortured someone who has no new information to give you, what were you just, you know, playing pickup sticks down there, or I mean, did you think it was fun? It's just, torture is something you can do, but it doesn't guarantee your results are going to be any better. I mean, people have been lying since the dawn of time. I mean, wrenching someone's wrist doesn't, I mean, necessarily change that they're going to tell you anything.
Well, not just that. You also got to think, though, you know, they rely on this intelligence to do operations, but there is a such thing as counterintelligence. You know, so who's to say that this guy who told you this information wasn't doing exactly, you know, what he was told to do, which was counterintelligence?
Right.
If they ask you this question, give them this answer, and then when they go to react on that answer, we have them. So Okay, yeah, sure. We waterboarded a few people, put some electric car batteries on a guy's testicles. Okay, yeah, we did all of that, and he told us to do this, so that's what we're going to do because it's reliable. Ooh.
Reliable air quotes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, your
It's,
reliability is only as good as what you
mhm.
were doing to the guy who told you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
so
yeah,
I
like I
mean,
said, I mean, lying. People have been lying for days. There's nothing that I mean that this person's going to corroborate reliable information. He could be just lying because he wants you to stop mock killing him. I mean, that's essentially what waterboarding is. Is that you're inducing something that makes the person feel like they're drowning. What's to say that they just want to give you something that you want to hear anyway?
well, and that's one reason why like police interrogations have really been toned down a lot, was
Hmm.
simply because, you know, you have a guy who's innocent. Let's just assume this one guy's innocent. He's one of 100 that's actually innocent. You know, here you're torturing him. You're telling him that all you got to do is confess to this. All you got to do is tell me this. All you got to do is tell me this, and I'll let you go. At that point in time, guess what that guy's going to do? He's
Yeah.
going to tell you anything you want to hear just so
Mhm.
he can go home. I'm sorry, that's not an effective way to interrogate. I mean, all you got to do is say that you work for Osama bin Laden, and we'll let you go.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you've been torturing me for several hours, for several days, several weeks. Okay, yeah, fine. You know what? If that's all I got to do to get out of here, okay, fine. I work. Osama told me to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, now we're going to hold you for the rest of your life because now you're a terrorist.
Yeah.
So now who lied to who?
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's about it. I know we're stopping here about 15 minutes early and started about 15 minutes late, but I mean, that's all I got for tonight. I mean, I thought it was a good show. We got definitely some interesting topics in, and got a lot of conversation. Hopefully, we'll get some conversation back. And hey, if you folks want to hear certain topics, certain things you think we missed or want us to talk about in the next show, feel free to contact us, nightwatchpolitics@gmail.com. We also have our Twitter account, which is Nightwatch, I believe, on Nightwatch Show. Yeah, Nightwatch Show. So just to keep you on your toes there. We also have our YouTube account, which is also Nightwatch Show. If you want to hear something, if you want to talk about something, if there's something on your mind, just feel free to talk to us. Let us know what you think about the show, and with that, I think we'll call it a night. See you guys next week.
See you next week.
I think I have heard of that.
Yeah,
But
it actually passed, and the Democrats were thinking that it wouldn't pass, but they got proven wrong. It's basically the Arizona bill times 10.
ouch.
Yeah, they
Oh, no.
basically said, Arizona set the foundation. Now we're going to build upon it. So, and they've began building the first floor. So,
So
but
since those topics, I think we can handle those each in time. Since we're already talking about it, why don't you go ahead and I don't know anything specifically about it, so if you want to just roll with that.
I don't know all the details because I really haven't pulled up the full document of it yet. But from what I was reading, basically Georgia has decided that of course, as we all know, Georgia has passed the same bill Arizona did restricting illegal immigration. I think, of course, you hear about Arizona being in the spotlight with the federal government and the Supreme Court basically taking shots at them over their immigration. But you don't really hear a whole lot about Georgia, which you don't hear a whole lot about Georgia
Yeah,
anyway.
you only mainly hear about Alabama and Arizona.
Right. You don't really hear about Georgia. Well, Georgia today is finally being placed on the map, so to speak, simply because they passed a bill basically stating that illegal immigrants can no longer get welfare. They can no longer obtain driver's license. They can no longer obtain any, basically without the driver's license, without a social security card, they can't obtain any assistance whatsoever. And now and part of the bill is also that they're doing the e-check.
Yeah.
the online checking for documentation. And basically, if a business hires, or they're basically forcing businesses to do the e-check, and if they hire someone who's illegal, they're fining them out the butt for it. Decades, they've basically tried to branch out into what the states are actually supposed to be taking care of. So, you know, like you said, if the federal government would just do the jobs that they were supposed to be doing in the first place,
Yeah.
then we really wouldn't be having this discussion because it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. And I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't agree with our current immigration policy. Pretty much, my personal opinion is so long as you're not, bringing some sort of disease across the borders, or you're not some criminal or anything like that, I don't understand why we have immigration quotas. And if you're from Mexico, well, we're only going to let in 5,000 Mexicans. We're only going to let in, certain amounts of people. I mean, if you want to come to America and, get a job here and live the American dream and everything, I think that should be totally open to you. But with the immigration policy as it currently is, this is the law, and either you fix the stupid law or you're stuck with it.
Well, I have nothing against immigration. I think it's, anybody's right to live here, but we have a process put in place. And, all we ask is that, hey, you just follow these rules, and then, you become an American citizen, and then you're no longer an immigrant. You're just an American citizen. The problem is you have so many people who just come over here illegally. That's the whole premise of illegal immigration instead of talking about legal immigration. And one of the things that I've always said is, if I'm an immigrant and I come here and I had to do my time and had to do my, basically go through this long, drawn-out process to become a citizen, you should be highly mad that there are people who are just coming over here, getting whatever they want, but never having to do, what you had to do to become an American citizen. You should be upset and mad that here are these people just coming.
Alrighty. Hello, folks, and welcome again to our second show. We actually did a consecutive show. Oh my goodness.
We need to mark that in history. Mark that in history.
We haven't done a consecutive show since what, 08?
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Alrighty. Well, actually, no, we did a consecutive show. It's just the reason we don't remember it is because it was like 30 minutes. Hi, Blog Talk Radio. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, so I did a boo-boo. We're starting a little late because I just assumed that last week's time and place was totally great, and instead of going, hey Michael, would you like to do that again? I just assumed, and here we are 15 minutes later.
In my defense, I left work a little later than I normally do, but that's going to happen when you work at a hospital. So
that about happened with me, because right as I was cleaning up the front of house and everything, they were like, so Sean, you want to run delivery? I'm like, sure, I'd like to make an extra $4 in tips. Went, did the delivery, and then I come back. It's like, you want to do another delivery? It's like, no, I have obligations tonight. Thanks, but no thanks.
It's like I already went on my $4 extra tip run. I'm done.
I'm done. I'm done. It's a Saturday night. The Fayetteville cops hate me anyway, so I'm done for the night. But anyway, I threw together some topics. I don't know if you have anything you want to talk about. I know I put on there an interesting video that I saw on YouTube that I thought would make a good topic, and of course, there's the situation escalating in Syria.
The only thing that I really can think of, if we've got time to cover it, would maybe be have you heard that Georgia has passed a new immigration bill?
I don't think
so. The Democrats are like, oh, you can't do that, and Republicans says, we just did. So
yeah, I mean, if you zero in on the whole driver's license issue and those things, I mean, it makes it completely impossible to get a job or anything like that. I mean, just because most of the things they ask you for is 2 forms of identification, and one of them is your driver's license, and the other one's some other piece of paper or So, I mean, if you narrow in that they can't get a driver's license and they can't get, certain other documents, that basically makes them unemployable.
Exactly, and I think they mainly did it primarily for the businesses, as far as forcing the mandatory e-check, basically just saying if you're hiring somebody, we're going to make sure that you do what you're supposed to. So I mean, well, my feelings on illegal immigrations anyway. So you
I,
know, I,
yeah, I
I'm
personally,
all.
yeah, I know you're personally, as far as I'm concerned, I don't agree with the current immigration policy we have. But I mean, if this is the immigration policy we have, and the federal government isn't going to enforce it, then I mean, and the states are like, well, this is the law. You kind of get what you get stuff like this, and then the federal government's saying, well, you're encroaching on our stuff, and the states are like, well, if you just did your damn job.
Right, and that's one thing that I honestly think too is, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe Kentucky will go, hey, they did this, why can't we? But in the long run, basically my theory on this whole ordeal is there are a set of rules put in the Constitution that governs what the federal government can and cannot do, and I mean it's pretty selective as far as what the federal government rights are. Over the past few years, over here, and I'm not even talking about jobs because there's two, and I mean there's good and bad on that topic back and forth. My big thing is one, as an illegal immigrant, um, you know, with current certain laws that aren't being followed, it's easy for an illegal immigrant to get on unemployment, welfare, medical assistance. It's easy for them programs to be enacted by an illegal immigrant, and I don't feel like they're entitled to it. Not when they haven't put anything into it. I'm not saying that there aren't, immigrants that have come here that have put into Social Security or unemployment or retirement. And if you put into it, you deserve to get back from it. I mean, that's just logic. The problem is we're having more and more take out than who put in. So then, obviously, no wonder they're worried about, Social Security won't last much longer. Well, no. And it's not just immigrants' fault. That's everybody's fault as far as government's concerned. But, my big thing is, and maybe I'm a right-wing nut when it comes to this particular issue, because I've always been an advocate for the concrete barricades. And, I'm calling for a 10-foot by 10-foot by 10-foot concrete barricade that stretches across the borders. And, and people are like, oh, so a giant Great Wall of USA. Okay, yeah, sure, if you want to call it that, if that makes you feel better, sure. But I'm not talking just a wall, because they can already climb a chain link fence or go underneath it. So a wall's not going to deter them a whole lot. So here's where my extremist comes out, and I say, okay, now we need guard dogs, pillboxes, and landmines. If you get across all of that, I will personally hand you a green card. And there's going to be people out there that are going to hear that and they're going, oh my God,